Hello, Gonzaga basketball fans. We've got a quick hitter episode for you reacting to the breaking news. It is reported that the Gonzaga men's basketball program is adding Bryce Douglas, Seattle U assistant coach, to the program headed into the season. He is going to become an assistant coach on the bench. And largely, it looks like Austin served as a makeshift replacement for Jorge Sanz in some of the duties he had.
Yeah, because Jorge had two responsibilities, right? He was the Dobo, but he was also an assistant coach. So very difficult, as we talked about in the video a while ago on Jorge. He was analytics, he was doing scheduling, he was doing recruiting, he was doing on-court stuff. Like, he did a ton of things, and it's just very unlikely that you were going to find somebody to replace all of those things. And that just wasn't going to happen. Like, at the level that Jorge was able to perform them in. That's why he got a fucking job in North Carolina. So, this is very interesting hire for a number of different reasons. From my understanding, Bryce will be coming in as somebody predominantly focused on analytics. So that's the role that he's going to replace with Jorge. Obviously, they use other folks for analytics as well. But as far as the in-house analytics is concerned, it's going to be Bryce that's going to head that up. Because right now on the staff, that just doesn't exist. There isn't anybody that fits that naturally. That's not something that RJ is going to do. He's primarily focused on recruiting. Snacks is primarily recruiting and player development with a little bit of on-court work. And then obviously Gentry and B-Mike are not doing that, right? And Mark Few doesn't have a computer, I'm not sure. So that's not going to happen, right? You're not going to be like, hey, Mark, we're going to need you to crunch some numbers here. So Bryce is going to come in. I know that he did that with Seattle U. That was his primary responsibility over there. And now he's going to come to Gonzaga and fill that role. The question is, what else are they going to do? Who else are they going to bring in? What I have heard is that they will be trying to bring in a European coach to fill that Dobo responsibility. So it doesn't seem like Bryce will have a ton of recruiting responsibility, but it will primarily be analytics and maybe some on-court work, but it's not going to be primarily a recruiting role. The Dobo position is going to be filled by a European that can kind of play in that, grease the wheels for European recruiting.
About what? I know that this is probably hard to like project out or like assume, but I guess what level of coach in Europe would be a reasonable get to be? What is a very non-traditional Dobo position?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good
It's not
question.
David Blatt. They're not getting David Blatt.
I don't know if we're getting David Blatt. Well, isn't David Blatt American?
Oh, I thought
he coached overseas.
He coached overseas.
You know where he went to school?
Did I do something problematic there?
You did. Where did he
Okay.
go to school? You just offended me and Xavier Lee.
Did you go to Princeton?
He's a goddamn Princeton Tiger, all right? So he's not a European. I'm pretty sure he's American. Well, not that Europeans can't go to Princeton, but, you know.
Why would they? They'd go to Oxford.
I had a friend at Princeton that's actually, she also went to Oxford and then she came to Princeton. But anyway, shout out Liesel. Yeah, but yeah. So I don't know. I have not heard any specific names on the European coach that they would be bringing over. Hopefully, they have somebody that's tied to a national team. That would certainly be ideal.
Hopefully not
obviously still
Spanish
has a lot of
national team.
yeah. Hopefully Serbian or something.
Yeah.
French.
Oh man.
What's
If
your
they could get
power
Illinois'
rankings?
corner. Yeah.
Quick
Okay. Power rankings.
from Tucker.
One. Tony Parker. Tony Parker's not doing that good of a job right now.
Okay. All right.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Tony Parker.
A French national team coach would be pretty sick. Would be
Okay.
pretty huge.
Yeah.
Um, it would have to probably be like Serbian or like
Dog.
one of the really good.
What if we get Luol Deng?
And we just get all the kids that are on his on his select team that all
Yeah.
live in his mansion or whatever.
Yeah. Let's get Luol Deng, dude. That sounds
Yeah,
cool.
that would actually be pretty cool.
I'm down with that.
Um, but like logistically, it seems like it would almost have to be a guy that's tied to the national teams, just because you need a pipeline of actual like kids rather than
You need
these
children.
like these pros.
You need
Because
someone influential with these kids.
yeah, how do we teach these kids to learn to go to Gonzaga?
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
but in the sense that like I th- I think we're headed to in a direction where it's gonna be really hard for these European pros to like get into American colleges for basketball and pay for play. So
Well, and we'll see how much European recruiting changes after this cycle. We're going
yeah,
to see how much teeth the NCAA actually has.
yeah,
We
and
don't know
like
that.
if the rumors are true that the like legislation stuff is going to be like aggressively sought after and willingly to the advantage of these power brokers, basically in terms of the major conferences, and then these representatives of the states that are most impacted based off of college athletics. Like you could absolutely see a way that European players are getting squeezed, and like I mean I don't think it's like a short sighted like my university was dealt a bad hand by European players this last recruiting cycle, so therefore I never want European players again. But it's a lot more fickle now than it ever was, and like I don't know, it seems like international clubs are trying to regain the power in a big way. Like
You're fighting
the
a war on
idea
both
that
ways.
Izan Almanza needed to get cleared, but to play and like relieved of his contractual obligations to play over here, but like there's none of those protections for colleges that have these guys.
Correct.
It
Correct.
just
Correct.
that doesn't seem sustainable.
That is the European advantage of actually having a serious professional model,
Yeah,
right? While we have the bread, they have a far better structure and system in place. They just do. It's, I mean, light years ahead of where college basketball is, and it's unfortunate that we're in this fucking mess.
yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to Bryce Douglas, Austin,
Sure.
like how can you speak to how heavily the staff in this program leans on analytics for them to grab a guy that's main duty is pulling up efficiency numbers and digging through the data?
I would say it's important enough that they want to have somebody on staff that does that. I wouldn't say that Gonzaga is like the most analytically driven program, but they definitely care and use analytics. But it's I wouldn't say that it is like top of the food chain when it comes to decision making. Like, I think that Gonzaga has a style of play that they just want to play. They're not like, hey, what are the efficiency numbers of this, and this play, and let's make our decisions based off of what the metrics are actually saying, what the numbers are actually saying. But they're also using it as a check. They're doing it as a self-scout to some degree. And so it's important, but I wouldn't say it's not like Nate Oates,
Yeah.
It's not like I wouldn't say it's in the same realm as like a Dusty May, and those guys. Like Gonzaga plays an efficient style, but that's more like for aesthetic and like good basketball reasons that I think than it is like we're analytic driven and data. It's like data driven decision making. I don't think that's like Gonzaga's MO necessarily, but it is something that matters.
I know that they there's that story that they brought Ken Palm in when Pomeroy first started Ken Palm, and like that they dig through the numbers there, and there was like a clear adaptation that the program made after going through that process. But yeah, I it's a little bit of like causation versus correlation of Gonzaga likes to play fast and space out,
and they like to be big,
and it turns out those are three qualities that advanced metrics really like.
And they don't want to turn the ball over. It's like those are pretty good things,
right?
So I guess I have a question for you, Tuck, as our resident historian, probably our greatest historical mind of Gonzaga basketball. When was the last hire that was made in a non-GA or below role? Though this is probably closer to being a GA than it is to being a big boy assistant.
Yeah.
That was outside the family.
I mean, Roger Powell, right?
Yeah.
You could say Roger Powell. Yeah. I mean, like they've always had like one guy that's been like a power puncher.
I would not put. All due respect, I would not put Bryce in the same category.
Yeah, he seems to be like Roger. a guy as a riser.
Yeah,
or so.
Yeah.
Like,
this is Just
because Roger was a riser too, but he was already like clearly tied in with recruiting, clearly like such a student of the game from his collegiate career. I guess like before that, Donnie Daniels would be that too, but he also was an established guy who had been an assistant coach for Power 5 teams and a head coach at his own at a time as well. And yeah, they've like they'll bring guys in, but it like definitely feels like more of the role that like RJ or Gentry have more so than like adding a rising guy from a mid-major level. Like this feels different for sure.
It does feel a little bit different, and I also think like from what I have heard, this was very much a Brian Michelson hire.
Interesting.
I won't even say I do not believe. Mark Few was not directly involved in this hire. So what does that tell us? That either B. Mike is getting trusted more to make decisions in recognition that, hey, this is you need to make these sorts of hires, and this is like a responsibility that you're going to take on. Does it mean that Mark is like, hey, I'm not going to hire this person that is not going to be my staff 2 years from now? Not to be like a doomer. I mean, we all know that it's coming around the corner, right?
I don't think it's dooming. Question. I think it's a reality.
I think it's an obvious question that we have to ask. Like, we would be like, it would be ridiculous for us to not ask that question. So, I do think it's interesting, in more that sense. We'll see. I will also say Bryce did have a connection to RJ Barsh, so there is that connection there. So it's not like this. It was like a completely unfamiliar hire.
Right.
It's also a guy that was in the conference you were in last year in your same state. So Seattle guy, like
they tell you to look out for those handshake line conversations, Austin.
That's right. Yeah. So anyway, that's where we are. I wouldn't make a huge deal out of this, but
like
this does indicate a few things.
Is there Are there like set rules by the NCAA for how big a staff can be?
There is insofar as how many coaches can recruit, but I don't think that there is as far as like staff size. I'm
Yeah.
under the impression that he is coming in as an assistant, not as the not just director of basketball operations. He was also an assistant at Seattle U. So
Yeah.
even with Gonzaga being a much bigger program, it's pretty rare for somebody to be like an actual assistant and then take a step back to be like a Dobo. That
Yeah.
doesn't really happen. But yeah, you get 5 guys that can go out on the road and recruit and have that assistant title. So
So that's interesting. I don't know. I like it. There is an inevitability with the Mark Few time clock. You know, I don't think this progresses it more forward or really tells me anything that I wasn't already assuming.
I mean, we talked about it in the Jorge leaving video. Like we were like, this is going to be a Brian Michelson hire.
Yeah,
That's who it's gonna. It's gonna be Mike.
Right.
Maybe
Right.
Mark will have he'll have some sort of input. I'm under the impression that he did not. That this was fully hands off. Go make your hire.
and like that's also Mark Few's style of leading this program too, though.
It is.
Like that's why I'm like not paying even really any mind to it. It's not just like, hey, it's gonna happen sooner or later. It's also Mark Few absolutely leans into the CEO approach of managing this basketball program. The ways that he leaned on Tommy Lloyd when Tommy Lloyd was assistant, the way that he leans on Brian Michelson and Stephen Gentry is not a traditional way that college basketball coaches have run their programs.
Correct.
And that
100%.
gives more liberty, agency, and instills trust in your assistants and lead assistant. That also ensures that you're going to have a succession program where the guy knows what he's doing day one. And, you know, frankly, like, it allows you to focus on more things and, like, contemplate other things beyond just the day-to-day operations and, like, talent acquisition of the staff. Like, if Mark Few isn't even really an analytics guy and he's not diving into the spreadsheets, what good is it to him to be the more than the rubber stamp for the process? Like, and that isn't taking away from what is obviously a Hall of Fame career of a basketball coach. That's just the nature of how this program is choosing to present itself and run itself.
Yep. 100%.
It'll be interesting to see how like Brian Michelson's leadership style changes and like how that reshapes the program.
Yeah, I don't know. I will say I think that B Mike will be far more analytically driven than Mark is.
But like in the style of like delegating a bunch of work, I think it's going to be significantly less than what Mark's doing.
Yeah.
But also,
I
like,
tend to agree
the
with
staff
that.
will be different, and you won't have a lead assistant that is as accomplished and experienced as what you just were. So,
Correct.
yeah. All that to say, we will be having our ears to the ground to see who the next Dobo is. We'll provide more information once we hear names on the Discord. Subscribe houseofcrowds.substack.com to get on there. We'll have more videos coming out soon. Thanks, everybody.